This is the GPL podcast from GopherPuckLive.com. This podcast is sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now let's start the show with your hosts, Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 209. Well, good evening, Vigs. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic after seeing the Gophers get 6 points. How about that, huh?
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Really needed it.
This weekend's going to be just as big. And what happens when we play Ohio State, Vigs?
We talk about dogs.
Besides that,
we talk hockey.
We do. And with who?
Cappy. We got Cappy on tonight.
Cap, there he is. Jeez.
Dogs and hockey.
Trying to lead Vigs here, jeez. I think he's got too many of those dogs in his
head. You guys practice that one, I think.
Yeah. I have zero script when I do this show. I used to have a script.
That's why it went so well. Script would sound so scripted, natural acting there,
No. I just have fun.
I tried.
How you doing, Cappy?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
You're going to be busy the next 2 weekends, aren't you?
I mean, if it's okay with Gopher fans, yeah, I'm going to be busy with you guys. I'm going to know them backwards and forwards.
Somebody was ripping you.
Lunchtime too, right?
Somebody was ripping you a couple weeks ago. Was it Edelweiss? Is it Inch? Somebody saying, "Who is this guy on color? He's an idiot."
Hey, thick skin.
You gotta. Hey, at least they're saying something. I think something's better than nothing.
Just
a compliment.
Yeah, and that's just it. Most hockey guys, they don't care.
I don't know. I mean, I want to do a good job, and I hope people enjoy. But I mean, I'm gonna do as best as I can and have fun with it because it's not. This is hockey and a game, and yeah, you want to call it right and be serious, but it's also fun. It's a sport, that's just my take on it. So I tried to have a little fun incorporated in there with it. So.
Just like we like to have fun with you on the show.
I mean, geez, what are we doing? Life's supposed to have some fun in it. So, hockey's a game. So let's enjoy. We got a top 10 matchup here. And then, let's have some fun. Hopefully, it's good games. I think they will be. I wish the teams were full strength. I mean, obviously Minnesota, but, let's see what happens.
Well, we'll get into that later, but
right.
As Vigo said when we started the show, 6 points for Minnesota Vigs, sweep of Michigan State, and Walker,
show me you read GPL without telling me you read GPL, right? I mean, Walker's performance this weekend really answering the bell.
Well, for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Well, I know, but he was played
when needed the most because it was trending at being one of those 1-1 ties and then going to overtime.
But we've been waiting for that, Cappy. We've been waiting for him to do this. And Viggs, he tie game at 1 Saturday night. He comes into the zone. He gets a penalty. He gets a penalty out of the refs. Scores before the penalty's called. Scores on the power play. He's off the schneid. He's got a point in the power play, Viggs. I mean, that stat that you found a couple weeks ago, which was amazing to me. He has his first point on the power play and right at the right time, Viggs.
Really at the right time. I think the biggest two keys for Walker's game was he didn't try to play hero. I think he stuck to the system and he made smart decisions with the puck for the majority of the weekend. He wasn't skating the puck into defenders, turning the puck over. He wasn't shooting the puck wide, starting the other team's breakout. I thought he was committed to being a team player. And the thing I liked about the first goal on the delayed penalty, as soon as he got the puck, he shot it quick. He got the shot off really quick. DeRitter didn't have time to really set it. He went down. He's like, hope it hit me. Didn't. And then the next one, the power play, he did have to dust it off. Took his time a little bit, but he picked his spot and he hit the net, which is a promising thing to see. I thought the power play on Saturday actually looked like the power play that Bob Motzko has been talking about. Put lots of pucks at the net, shoot quickly, get the puck to the paint, and try to win second chances. And that's the first time they've looked like that really all year.
And Cappy, Viggs kind of touched on it there. We've talked about this season is like, you can't go out there and try to be the hero. If you just play your game,
whenever you're trying too hard,
it'll come to you.
It's not gonna go work out for you. As hard as it can be, it's how you got to let the game come to you. I mean, you got to take what's given to you at times, and obviously, if you're down a goal or something late in the game, obviously your mentality changes in terms of how you go about it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't. I'm sure he'd love to have 35 points right now. He has 20, but honestly, the next 6 games and then maybe the next 6 after that are when Gopher fans are going to remember Sammy Walker. And if he does elevate here in the next 6 weeks, it won't matter.
Viggs is one of our favorite players in baseball. Kirby Puckett once said, I'm putting the team on my back. And boy, couldn't Minnesota use this out of Walker out of this, for the month of February coming up.
Yeah, I mean, when Walker's playing well, this team is difficult to beat. We look at some of the plus minus stats about when they win and when they lose, and that Walker McLaughlin combo is now like plus 39 in their wins and they're minus 21 in their losses. And that's just an amazing stat to me, how important they are to this team going up or going down. And I think the takeaway is against a Michigan State team that usually plays pretty stingy, Walker stuck to the game plan. And it's not so much about trying to be hero. It's that there are going to be times in the game when you're going to have chances to make an impact. Those will come to you. So you just can't give away chances the other way, trying to create opportunities that aren't there. So just recognizing that is so important to a college hockey player.
It didn't start that way this week and that weekend, though, Viggs. It was 2-0 after Minnesota dominated.
So they played well the whole time. From what I didn't see every minute, but I saw quite a bit, and it sounded like the Gophers played pretty well period 1 to period 6 of the weekend for the most part. Obviously, the goal hockey sometimes, the pucks don't bounce, or whatever. But it was, obviously the competition. Michigan State's a tough, grinding team. There's a quick note about them. Like, their record without Mitch Lewandowski this year is 1-14 or something like that, and they're 8-1 with him. He's a good player. He's not Connor McDavid, but the stat is crazy. He's been out for a long time, and they've gone on a massive losing streak.
And he's obviously the kind of guy who he just raises everyone else's game too.
Sure, and he's actually has raised his point production this year. But Minnesota seemed like it was one of their more consistent 6 periods. Not we came back, played the second and third well, or played the second game better, or Good Friday, bad Saturday. It seemed like a pretty consistent weekend.
And Viggs, they did give up that 2-0 lead in the first game. It didn't bother them. They just plugged away, and they got what they needed. Maybe teams of these past 2 years, we played so well and we're still down 2-0. What was me?
It definitely was the disease that was infecting this program for a while. Or we're down 2-0 and I've got to go create something to get us back into it. Those two things can really just sap a team and really kill your season when things like that happen. I'm impressed that they stuck to it and they didn't start chasing. And, I think closer didn't have a great start. That backhand play on the rush, that's that's something that a goalie's really going to have a hard time with. Next one, maybe not his finest moment, maybe a bigger goalie that hits him, but I don't think it's a bad play either. And I think it speaks a lot to his mental makeup that he bounced back and made saves when he needed to the rest of the weekend. And I think that's a key for Minnesota going forward, because you don't know how goalies are going to react. When they give up a goal, whether or not it's a good one or not, how do they bounce back? And I think Closer's showing that he's got that mental makeup that you want in a goalie who's going to play a lot of minutes for you.
Well, it was a good weekend all around, so that's the positive thing. This is the kind of weekend that would give up points in the past week. So, like you said, 6 points, that's a huge deal. I have a tweet from Darren Bach, and he always likes to tweet us with questions. Could Michigan's season be in jeopardy with all of their allegation? We obviously had the unfortunate incident of, not unfortunate.
Which one are we talking? No, I don't.
Well, you can rip them as much as you want, Cap.
No, it's not. No, honestly, are you asking me that, or?
No, I was going to start with Viggs because.
Okay, go Viggs, go.
Trouble has been a brewing. I mean, it started with the Michigan Tech, Western Michigan GLI problem, and now it's sounding like the head honcho's in trouble.
Okay, so let's clarify a couple things real quick. Educate people on the GLI situation. Apparently, dating back to summer, Mel Pearson, anticipating players playing in the World Junior, was almost campaigning in the athletic department that they shouldn't participate in the GLI at all, that they should pull out of it. I think the athletic department said, no, we want to go ahead. And then as the days got closer, they said, okay, we'll pull out of a game, but you still have to play Michigan Tech. Or maybe they gave Mel the opportunity to pick which game. Who knows what happens, because I don't think we're going to get the truth out of this. What happened? They played Michigan Tech, 0-0 tie. They have a full lineup, 12 forwards, 60, 2 goalies. It is what it is. They don't play Western Michigan. In response, Mel says it was up to the medical team. That's why we had to do it. It's their decision. Turns out, not the case. He lied about the emails. There's always an email. Just remember, dance like nobody's watching and write an email like it's going to be subpoenaed. Second thing that's been going on, dating back to October, the program's been under investigation for some Title IX issues about discriminating women, I think, in the program and uncomfortable work environment, possibly telling players to lie about COVID symptoms and downplay possible testing that would have to happen. We look back at the NCAA tournament last year where Michigan got told by the NCAA they couldn't play. Sounded like Mel Pearson was not very happy about that in the media publicly as that decision was being made, saying, it's out of my hands. I don't agree with it, but we have to do it. Sounds like he was trying to cover that up. So all this stuff is being investigated. And on top of it, you've got a Michigan university that's under turmoil. Their president was having an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate and got removed by the Board of Regents. Their provost had over 20 sexual harassment cases brought up against him. He was fired. Their AD is struggling right now with their football coach, who was maybe going to go to the NFL and now is back and now is losing some of his staff. So there's a lot of chaos there. I don't think the actual team is in trouble. Mel Pearson might be in trouble.
But if Mel Pearson's in trouble, that affects the team.
It's going to affect the team. With their Olympians away in Beijing, if Mel Pearson is gone, do those players come back or do they sign pro contracts? So there's a lot of chaos that could happen in Michigan right now, because you got to believe that some of these programs, NHL programs, are going to say, that player looked pretty good in our lineup at the end of the year, maybe draw in some fans.
I'll just stick to the hockey part. I think they would all come back. There was a reason why they came back. It was mostly because they wanted the Michigan experience, not the Mel. I personally, any interaction I've had with Mel Pearson, he's been great. So that's just whatever, one-on-one conversations, whatever. He's always been a good guy to talk to. Always gives a ton of information, actually. Like you feed him one question and he'll talk for 10 minutes. About the players, I think they'd come back. I think Bill McCult would be taking over, and I think he's already the heir apparent for whatever that may be, and maybe that could be in the next whatever. But those guys are the ones that recruited those guys. When you think about it, like that. So for me, I think hockey, the players would come back and they want to win. The reason they came back is because of the hockey, like doing this, having the fan experience. Playing in 2 weeks, they're going to be playing. Well, they're going to miss it but they're going to be playing in the playoffs at home, and the place will be rocking. But it's not good. And you didn't even mention the worst one of all is, and this happened at Ohio State, and it's happened all these places with these doctors and what they did for like 30 plus years. The same thing was happening at Ohio State that happened at Michigan, where this doctor for 30 plus years was sexually molesting student athletes. And it's just crazy. Like, and I heard of a couple other schools. Well, there's only two. And the fact that they're like, always brought together. It's just insane and sad.
It's a scary situation, Viggs. And on top of that, you have what happened in Chicago last week with the owner.
I was there. I was 5 feet from the reporter.
Were you really?
Well, yeah, because I was doing the game that night, and I was there at this town hall. It was an hour before going up to the booth. So, I was there.
Wow. I mean,
it was pretty uncomfortable.
Viggs, it's really ticking me off that somebody would do that, because this is not 1975 or 85.
I'm not the first one to come up with this take, but I don't know if any of you guys watch Succession. But it's about this kind of ultra-rich family that runs a media conglomerate. And the patriarch of the family is, like 70 and kind of a little crazy, maybe on his meds, off his meds, and just out of touch with the world and just wants to win and make money, even though he doesn't need it. Sometimes you feel like that's who's running the Blackhawks. And he's just so out of touch that he doesn't even realize what's going on and how big a deal this is. And it's just people in that position of power should know better.
I mean, you're a few feet from. How was it when the cameras were shut off? Were the reporters, people just talking to each other? Like, did that just really happen?
I mean, literally right after. Actually, it's on my TV right now. He was on the pregame show. His son Danny, who was supposed to answer that question, it wasn't even supposed to be Rocky. This was Danny's show, the new CEO, his son. Yeah. And he was on the pregame show and did a 20-minute interview and got to say what he was going to say about what they're doing and the new culture and all this stuff. So that part, but no, him and Faulkner, the two people pretty much in charge now, came over and talked to all the reporters and met with just talked to them and said, hey, apologize, all this stuff. And blah, blah, blah. And what he got to say tonight was what was hoped to have gone. And sad thing was they were prepped for this, and everyone was. But
nobody prepped the old.
Oh, no, yes, he did. And he got mad in the prep, I guess. But whatever. It's a cluster. That thing is he was a hero 12 years ago when his father, Bill Wirtz, was the most ancient thinking old school man. He didn't put home games on TV because he thought people would not come to the games. So when he passed, Rocky took over and he became a hero because he changed everything in the hockey. And you saw what happened. Obviously, the Blackhawks became what they became, in front of everybody. Obviously, those behind the scene things were horrible, but he was looked at as a hero. And in one night he went from that to the worst villain than his dad, I think, in a matter of an hour, so it's sad. It's too bad.
I mean, it's just going to keep happening, Viggs, until some of these people just open up and say, we have a problem. We're putting a plan together, whatever. The way it was handled was just not good. And it will be interesting to see what happens in this Michigan situation. Is Mel in trouble? Maybe the team will be fine this year, but maybe he doesn't survive after the season.
It's hard to know. I mean, there's a little bit of a power vacuum at Michigan right now as they've got so many things going on. It's hard for them, I think, to pay attention to a hockey program that's probably not their focus. But I do think they'll be fine in the long run. Bill McCall is a great coach, great recruiter, a lot of energy. Players like him. I think players like Mel too. I mean, Mel's always been a great person in the hockey community to talk to about things. He's one of those coaches that if you ask a good question, he gives you more than you ask for. Like Cappy was saying, I like coaches like that. Jim Montgomery comes to mind, George Gwozdecki comes to mind, coaches of like-minded ability to handle the media and give back. So it's frustrating to see this go down, but these are just examples of people in power not understanding that there's going to be a follow-up. People are going to catch you if you're trying to lie or be dishonest or you don't handle something right. I just kind of wonder sometimes if these people in power think they're just unchecked and they'll just get to rule and dominate how things are going to go. Because when you get in these public situations where you've made bad choices and you've put bad people in charge, you're going to be held accountable. So the quicker those people realize that, the better for all of us.
Amen, Viggs. That's all we can say. It's just it's a wait and see, at least with the Michigan thing. So
yeah.
First, before we move on to what's going to happen the rest of this month, we need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, Jerry Peters here from First Class Mortgage. Have you refinanced your home in the last 12 months? If you haven't, chances are you should. Record low interest rates and skyrocketing home values make this the perfect time to remove monthly PMI while improving your interest rate at the same time. You can also use the equity in your home to finance those home improvement projects. Or you can consolidate high interest rate credit cards into one new low monthly payment. To hear more, call or text me today at 612-940-3291. You can email me at jerry@firstclasscorp.com. Or you could go to firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. Mention the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. First Class Mortgage's NMLS number is 322842 -480200. This is not an agreement to lock into an interest rate under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
All right. Thank you, Jerry, as always, for sponsoring our podcast here. Well, Viggs, it was the first week without the Olympic guys. Went pretty well for Minnesota. But now the speed limit goes way up and the competition goes way up. And it's a completely different ballgame this weekend.
Yeah, I thought on Friday night, Minnesota was in a little bit of a hole and the game was kind of getting into a lull. And all of a sudden there were a couple of mistakes by Michigan State where Minnesota had opportunities to score goals and they capitalized. And once they got momentum, Michigan State made a few more mistakes and just kind of let Minnesota have chances to get back in the game, and they did it. When you're playing Ohio State, Bob Osco talked about this today, it's like playing UMD. It is a tight hockey game. There are not going to be mistakes for you to have to capitalize on. You're going to have to play a patient game and not make mistakes yourself trying to force things. There's always that joke that it's going to be a rock fight. You get the puck, you throw it over the red line, hopefully it does some damage. They're going to get the rock, they're going to throw it back at you. And so it's just that kind of battle back and forth about who's going to make a mistake first or who's going to create offense out of nothing. And so it's a huge test for them this weekend because we have not seen Minnesota play well in these situations consistently.
And Cappy, Ohio State is playing so well this year, taking advantage of their situation. A rookie goalie coming in, playing outstanding. A lot of young players playing outstanding. They're in first place. Obviously, 2 games in hand, but they can kind of control their own destiny here. And we're just going to say it. They're hitting Minnesota and Michigan at the right time.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
you have to take advantage.
Sure. I mean, they will have earned it if they do well the next 2 weekends. They will have earned that. I mean, aside from the fact that you're playing a team that's shorthanded both weekends, Yeah, I mean, I obviously I'm a little biased, but I didn't think they would be a 7th place team this year.
Mhm.
I just, I thought middle of the pack, more based on the fact that you didn't know what you had in the league after Michigan and Minnesota. Like the next 5, I thought Notre Dame was 3, but then after that, I thought those 4 could end up anywhere. And the one thing with Ohio State is I follow them a little more. I saw some of the recruits they had, and I'm like, these 2 defensemen are legit, and they're like, one's a legit NHL prospect, the other one could be in McWard, and then in goal, it's always a wild card. You have no idea what you're getting, and now you have arguably statistically the best goalie in the league. And a top 5 goalie in the country, possibly it's statistically. So I guess, and one other thing that's gone under the radar for sure is the transfers. Jake Wise has got 28 points, and Will Rydell is a captain. He's been there for a month, and he's a captain, before the season. So you had and then Eric Cooley, a guy that's had 80 points coming into this year, but he's on the 4th line at Ohio State. He's got 3 goals in the last 4 games. So they've just got depth now, which they had none last year. I mean, last year was awful. So it's interesting. And they keep getting better, young guys. So I don't know.
I see this question by Tim Hapke. Are you going to be on site to call the games? And it doesn't sound like you are you?
No, I might as well be sitting here and doing it. I actually probably have it better on my screen. No, we will. For anyone that's the next 2 weekends, it'll be me and Dan Kelly. We have all 4 games, and we will be in Chicago unless something changes. But I don't think that's happening.
Were you going to call was there going to be any Big Ten? There was going to be Big Ten games for Notre Dame and Wisconsin this
Thursday.
week.
Dan was doing Thursday with Pat Micheletti.
Oh, okay. And then that got
nixed. Saw that the games have been rescheduled. They put they could air Sunday's game at 8 o'clock. They could. There's nothing after 5 on BTN, but there's a reason for that.
Could be a blowout in the Super Bowl. You never know.
The thing is, 8 o'clock. No, that's the end of the game. You could probably turn it over after the game.
If they wanted me to go in the studio Sunday night at 8 o'clock with Dan and do it, I would do it in a heartbeat. Super Bowl's fine. It's fun, but whatever. I mean, it's not my team playing, so but yeah, that's they're playing 8:30, I think, on Saturday, and now an 8 p.m. on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad they're playing. And hey, you got to do what you got to do. I just haven't heard anything in terms of TV. Was going to be Thursday was us, and then Friday, I'm assuming would have been Valley's. So I don't know. And they had to rearrange all these other sports, like the men's basketball game and the women's basketball, I think. So I'm glad they're playing them, and then there's no discrepancies because Notre Dame officially is still in the mix. So I don't think they're going to win the league, but they're they have a chance still.
Viggs, they're still hoping. I don't know did we ever have official confirmation that Wisconsin's going to be able to have players out, or are they just kind of assuming that their players will be eligible? I never heard confirmation on that. I know Todd was kind of curious about Todd Molesky, I should say.
Yeah, I think they're hoping that the players clear their 5-day protocol and are going to be able to play. So, should be a good matchup.
I think this benefits Notre Dame a little bit, kind of backing it up a little. I mean, you're playing that Thursday night, that just sounds like a trap for Wisconsin to beat them. And now it may seem to be a trap on that Sunday night 8 o'clock game, but maybe you get that first one and then a little easier on Sunday. But
so Cappy, you were mentioning the next 2 weekends are, big for Ohio State.
Yeah.
They could finish first and be off for 2 weeks, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask Viggs about this. Could they get, say, Arizona State to come and play an exhibition game?
Have they scheduled that exhibition that they could have?
They had scheduled. They had one. I just don't know. I feel like the NCAA has kind of loosened on some of that stuff.
Because the NCAA allowed that extra scrimmage, and that's why Minnesota was able to play St. Thomas.
Right.
So I would
They
have to
haven't played a
think.
game but they also played the USA team.
Yeah, because you got to play an extra exhibition this year.
Right. So they played 2. Then
the Gophers did, yes.
Yeah, right. So you
And
could
Ohio
play
State's
2.
only played 1.
Right. They played Western Michigan at home, like in October or whatever. So that's what I guess they could officially do that if they wanted, if that happens.
Yep, they could play another exhibition against someone. I'm sure, the development team would like it, or
Long Island or
Long Island playing one.
Well, Arizona probably would want to jump on it the most.
Yep.
I'm sure Ohio State would want to play at home or somewhere in Columbus because who knows where the ice is available. Because that's what's crazy is if they do win, because this happened 3 years ago when they won the league. They had the same situation. They had 2 weeks off.
Yep.
They were the team that didn't have it, and then they had 2 weeks off. Played Penn State at home on a Sunday because they didn't have the rink Saturday, and then they were one and done. And then they went to NCAA tournament as a 2 seed or something, and they were out again. So they had a month where they just played 2 games and lost the last 2. So
if they were to, finish off first, their last game would be the weekend of, the 18th and 19th.
Right.
Wouldn't play the last weekend of the year.
13th, that's Sunday the 13th.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, this isn't official, but if it's not Ohio State at home and they're in the semifinal, both games would be Saturday, I believe. But if it's Ohio State is home on one of those semifinals, it would be Saturday at Minnesota or at Michigan or whomever, and then Sunday would be at Ohio State time. I don't know. That's just because I know they still have the same rink issues as they had 3 years
ago.
So
semifinal would be on the 13th. So that's
right. So we're talking about
last play the 19th, and then their next game would be the 13th.
Right. So
wow,
20.
I mean, it happened to Minnesota not too long ago too. Because they finished the season with a bye, finished first.
Didn't they play? I thought they played. They didn't play that week because most teams found games or.
I think one of those years they did, didn't they, Viggs? But
they played Arizona State.
I feel like they played Arizona State that year.
Michigan did.
One year they did, but I want to say early in the Big Ten, one of those first 4 years that they won the league. They had that new format or something like that, and they were up.
It's only been 4 years or 5 years or something, right? Because Notre Dame has been in the league for 5 years. Either way,
I think we'll have to get in touch with Todd Molesky for the official verdict on this, as we are not the experts, clearly.
Right. Either way, though,
on what's possible.
I think it's something you'd look into. You'd want to do it the next weekend and then have a week off. If you were that team, I think you'd want to have the week. You'd want to play the next week and then have a week off before, because just in case of an injury or some sort, and obviously you don't hope for any of that. But I would prefer, if I was a coach of that team, I would want to play a game.
Because I do remember talking to Don Lucia about this, and he said, they brought out the jerseys and they tried to make it as big of a game thing as they could.
Like a scrimmage?
A scrimmage, and it lasted for 3 shifts. And then they're just like, okay, there's no fans here. There's no officials. We better just kind of scrap it and be done, not get hurt.
Right. It's tough, though. I mean, the thing with that is if it does happen, they've gone through it before. It's the same staff. So they might have a different perspective than they did last time. So it'll be interesting.
Get an 8th team in the conference.
What's that?
Get an 8th team in the conference.
There honestly would be right now. We're talking. It would have been happening this year or next year if, what do you call it?
Illinois, wasn't it?
All didn't happen. Let's say, it was supposed to be announced, I thought, in April of 2020, and that was a month after, everything happened. So who knows? Well, I guess we'll never know. And hopefully but I've heard it's still in the works. It's just a matter of time again.
I'll be waiting. Waiting.
Yeah. I don't know I think we talked about this last time I was on. What's going to happen with Arizona State next year with a brand new arena? And what's going to move around?
Won't they have a partner in that arena, Viggs?
Yep. Possibly the Coyotes are going to get in there, much to the chagrin of every other owner in the NHL having to
How
share
does Bettman
revenue
just
with the
allow this
Buckeye.
to keep happening?
That's wild.
Well, I mean, one thing that was interesting that I read was that estimates of Arizona's actual tickets sold suggest that this wouldn't be the worst thing ever for them because they
Selling
may
like
be
6,000.
giving away they may be giving away 5,000 or 6,000 seats a night to boost their attendance numbers. And actual NHL owners have access to real data on tickets sold. They can kind of do like I do when I do the Freedom of Information Act requests with you, and I get, tickets scanned and stuff like that, and season ticket holders. The owners share that information. So maybe it's not as outlandish as we all think, and they might actually be able to actually sell tickets to their building.
I think the biggest thing will affect the out of town people. I know, people there in March and April or in February, March for spring training, they want to go see the, Pittsburgh, let's say the Blackhawks, Chicago teams are out there. Whoever else is out in Arizona for spring, a lot of people, they, live there in the spring and they go see their road teams. That's when they get crowds, if any, out at their games. So that would affect them trying to, the secondary market on StubHub, when there's only 5,000 seats available total, might actually, and that doesn't help the owners.
All right, Vigs. What does Minnesota need to do this weekend to be successful in your eyes?
In my eyes, they have to play a patient game. There's going to be this desire, I think, out of these players to prove it and force action out there. They need to go against that feeling and just continue to grind it. One of the things that was really interesting that I was focusing on Saturday was watching Hughlin and Pitlick play hockey. Rhett Pitlick can escape along the wall just as good as about any player on the Gopher roster. He reminds me of Sammy Walker as a freshman with his ability to hound pucks, back check, create chances out of nothing and start transition plays. I mean, that's something to watch because if he continues to develop on that trajectory, he's going to be a heck of a hockey player. And Aaron Hughlin, he's a tough center. He's a future number one center for this team. So that's something to watch.
I was just to jump in real quick. Sorry. I was shocked at seeing Hughlin's numbers when I saw them, because when I've watched him, he stood out as not as a star player, but I'm like, how does he only have 6 points? Like, he looks way more dangerous out there just from watching him all season when I've watched the Gophers.
I feel the same way. I know you've liked it, Vigs. You've liked the way he's played.
Yeah, I think if like Pitlick and Hughlin and Bros got some power play time together, that could be something to build on because they make smart plays and they're good at retrieving pucks for second chances and they're creative. So I think that's going to be something for fans to watch for years to come here. I think the offense will come for Hughlin. I think he's just a disciplined player. He doesn't chase the game very often, and he wants to be that third high guy. So you don't see him selling out to try to create chances. And I think just some of the roles that he's playing in right now.
Okay, Cappy, what does Ohio State need to do to be successful this weekend?
Do what they've been doing. Honestly, you talked about how like they make you earn most. You got to be patient. The one guy that will cough the puck up, but he's way he's high risk, high reward, but he's way more reward is Mason Lohrei. He will turn the puck over, but he's also dynamic, and he's kind of like Quinn Hughes. I actually think he's like Owen Power because of his size. He's just obviously not as good as Owen Power, not that far below him, but he's the one guy that if you put pressure on him, and he'll maybe turn the puck over more than everyone else. Everyone else plays that smart game. I think the big thing is the special teams both ways, because they're both pretty average at they're
at best for Minnesota.
What's funny is the fact that you guys brought up shooting the puck, and I've asked Steve Rollick about this, and he's like, we just don't have any shooters. Nobody wants to shoot first. Nobody has a shoot first mentality on their power play. And that's where, they try to make that one more pass, right? And when teams do that in any league at any level, that's when they get in trouble. And they've got guys that can shoot. I mean, Merkulov's got the highest shooting percentage, I think, in the country. It's real close. And his goal, I don't know if you guys saw it on Saturday against Wisconsin, where he was 1-on-5 and he just ripped one over Rowe's glove. And you're like, okay, this guy needs to shoot the puck more. And he's still got 18 goals. So shooting the puck on the power play, but special teams going to be huge. And then I can't wait to see third periods when both these teams are monsters in the third period. I don't know Minnesota's exact numbers, but Ohio State is scored 50 and given up 17 in the third periods this year, which is just an insane number. So I hope both games are 1-1 or 2 tied going to the third, and let's see these two teams bash it out at the end.
Viggs, we've talked about it quite a bit this year about the Minnesota power play and the frustration that you've had and I've had. I mean, I will text you in the middle of a game. It's just too slow. Puck move is too slow. Like you said, they might not have any guys who are shooters. And if they do get that chance to shoot, they're stopping the puck. They're taking too much time to get the shot off. Maybe because it's them themselves or the pass came to them was just not where it needs to be. So it's just a combination of a lot of things here, Viggs.
There's an old saying in hockey, you can't give a good player a bad pass. And so I think as guys set up on the flanks, they have to be ready to adjust their bodies to get the puck on net. I mean, you watch a guy like Ovechkin, NHL pretty skilled, but those passes are not in the perfect spot every time. He's finding a way to contort his body to get the blade on the puck and get it to the net. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be quick. And I think we kind of saw that on Saturday, that finally was starting to click on the players' minds as they were getting pucks to them, and pucks were getting to the net. They weren't getting blocked. They weren't dusting it off. They were putting pucks in the paint. And I think that's what they have to do to be successful, because one of the things that the Minnesota power play is really good at is when there's chaos and second chances, that's when that skill can really shine, especially for a guy like Blake McLaughlin. He seems to make plays in tight spaces out of chaos better than any gopher forward. So as they get more comfortable with that and create more of those chances, I think they're going to get more goals.
But that's the problem. They haven't been able to get the puck moved around fast enough and accurate enough to cause the chaos.
Correct. It's easy saves for the goalie.
Yeah.
The goalie sees it coming. They're not good enough shooters to typically pick their spots. The Walker goal, DeRitter went down. He picked it.
He did pick it. He
picked it.
He held on to it a little bit too long than you would have liked.
Yeah, I mean, on the first goal he scored on the delayed penalty, as soon as the puck on his stick, it was gone. And he scored. And DeRitter was still coming down, and he found a hole somewhere. That's the key. Get him off quick. And so we'll see if they can do that. I know Ohio State typically has a really good penalty kill, but it hasn't been very sharp this year either, right?
No, it's been, not awful, but just not good.
It's 73, 74%, somewhere in there.
And then it's 81 in the Big Ten. They're fifth or sixth, fifth, I think. Wisconsin scored on it last weekend a couple times, I think. But yeah, I want to see Minnesota. I think it's the mentality too when they're on their different sized rinks. It's so easy to pass it around the perimeter and look for that cross ice one timer, and then you think, oh, we're so far away from the net, right, to get to those second chances. When they're at Ohio State, it's going to be tighter. At any NHL size arena, the key more will be, can they work it around quick and then get a shot and attack, as opposed to, oh, it's easy to move it around on this. I think the more challenge will be to start the power play, to get puck control in the zone as much as once they do have it, then I think they'll be in better shape.
Sometimes I think Gopher coaches have put players on their strong side instead of their offside, because when you're on your offside, you tend to drift farther and farther away to create a lane for a one-timer.
You just kept backing away.
And all of a sudden you're taking a one-timer from the hash marks on the wall.
And you don't even mean to.
Rink.
Honestly, you don't mean to. It's just like a natural motion. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you're just backing up. You don't even realize you're doing it. I yell at the guys. I'm like, look where you are. Stop. And you're at the outside hash instead of on the face-off dot where you're in prime position. And you look around, you're like, oh, shoot, I Yeah, I didn't mean to. I just didn't even think. And then also they're doing that thing where guys come high up and you try to like time it so the puck goes from the weak side up to the top, and then getting that guy that's on his strong side kind of, then he's attacking the net with the puck, and he can shoot it, and you go across or you can go down. So you're right on that. I think that helps, stop that from happening, because then you're looking at the plays in front of you the whole time.
Right. So it's definitely a focus this weekend because there are goals there for Minnesota to score. Against Michigan State, it was tough to move the puck through the seam because they're a big team, a lot of long sticks, big bodies, tough to get those seam plays going. So I know Minnesota's been trying to figure out how to use the bumper. They've tried, Nevers there. They've tried McLaughlin there. They've tried Krutschink there. They've tried Brodzinski there. It hasn't been great for them using a bumper. So we'll see what happens this weekend, because I think the net front is going to be key with Ohio State's goaltending.
All right, Viggs, it's that time. Let's get your prediction.
We're early.
No.
I've got a bad feeling about this weekend.
Oh.
I thought Minnesota got a little lucky on Friday to get that momentum and get the win on Friday. They did look better on Saturday, but we just have kind of seen this kind of Jekyll and Hyde out of the team, and I don't think they're going to get mistakes. I think Ohio State's going to play a very clean game. They're going to get really good goaltending. I am a little worried about Close in a game where you could see the most action he's seen and high talent action. The goal that kind of came over the net where he went down and the guy picked a corner, that's not on him. That's not a bad goal on him. But if he was bigger, the odds of that puck hitting him are better. I think against a team like Ohio State, they might just be patient and put volume pucks at net and try to pick at holes in his technique. And he hasn't really seen that yet. He hasn't been under that kind of pressure. So I think Minnesota would be lucky to get 3 points. I think they're going to get 2.
I'll give you one stat as I've been doing my studying this weekend. Preston Close has not seen 30 shots in a game yet. 29 at Notre Dame? At Notre Dame.
And those weren't high quality shots.
Right. Those were the most he's seen in a game. Michigan was interesting because they didn't get a ton of shots, but when they did, they got quality stuff. Mm-hmm. That was the weird thing about that series at Mariucci, but he has not seen 30 shots. And I think at least one of the games he'll see 30 this weekend. So is it my turn now?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to get predictions? Since
you can do whatever you want.
Some announcers choose not to, and they hide behind that announcer, persona. But Cabby, we know you. You've been on this before, and you usually give a prediction.
Sure. I mean, I've been thinking honestly around the same thing as you. I think Minnesota gets. I think one game goes to overtime, and then it's kind of that's. We can gripe about this maybe in the overtime, about the whole hour overtime and what's considered a win and a loss, because it's total BS that you could consider a loss once you go to overtime, and it should not be a win or a loss either way. But that's just I think it'll go to tie one night in regulation and then toss up for after, and I think the Buckeyes will win the other game. That's just. But I could see it completely flipped easily. With those 3 guys out and Ohio State's depth and how good Dobish has been, that's the one thing is you're waiting for these freshmen to have, and maybe this is maybe they have their first rough weekend, but these freshmen usually at some point you hit a wall or something when you've been relied on, and they haven't. Those 3 guys alone, and then I think McWard and Thiesing are really good freshmen too. But those big 3, call them the big 3, whatever you want to say, with Merkulov, Lori, and Dobish, it's just not. They've just not stopped. They've kept going. So I'm just banking on that nothing changes.
Minnesota's going to take 5 points this weekend.
Ooh.
Friday night, they're going to come out. They're going to beat them up. If the Olympic boys are there, it'd be a 5-1 game. It's going to be more like a 3-1 game. They're just not. The team's going to have it. Saturday night, they're going to come together and win one in overtime. I'm going 5 points this weekend.
It'll be fun. I think it's going to be good. It's going to be great. I'm excited.
If Minnesota plays like they did against some of those games,
you know?
against Michigan and you know,
well, that's the problem, right? Friday night they looked like they could have beat the Wild.
Anybody, yes.
But then they got smoked 6-1 the next night. So it's
yes.
just, and that's with everyone, both teams, Michigan and Wisconsin, or Michigan and Minnesota. That series at Yost was just so weird. How there was like a 10-goal swing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the Big Ten, right, guys? I mean, this league, there's a lot of high talent on every roster. Every roster's talented. And consistency is the hardest thing for 18 to 25-year-olds to figure out.
Sure.
And we see it on a nightly basis in the Big Ten.
This has been the one year, though, where this league is completely split in half. Now, there's talent on every team, but clearly there is
is already decided.
It's not even close. And you know, and I think Ohio State's last loss in regulation was to Michigan on December 9th, whatever that was. So it's, I keep waiting for things to change and happen, and we'll see.
You know what? Ohio State's gonna, even if Ohio State takes the title, they're in trouble when Michigan and Minnesota get their players back.
I want them to play both. I'd love.
I just want to say it now. Michigan or Minnesota is going to go into Ohio State and kill them in the Big Ten playoffs.
That could, if they're going into Ohio State might be on the road. I mean, who knows?
Well, I don't think they.
Minnesota takes 5 points this weekend, buddy. They're not going to be in the game.
Yeah, you're right. I just.
Right. No, I know.
I don't think anybody's going to want to play Michigan in the NCAA tournament. Especially you get a lot of those players coming back from Olympic Games, where Canada's going to go far, U.S. is going to do pretty decent.
You think? Who knows?
It's just going to make for an exciting time. It's just going to be an exciting time.
Yeah. One thing to know going into this weekend, if Minnesota were to get the sweep, they would be in a very healthy position at 8 in the pairwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think either team gets a sweep, they're in the tournament.
If the Buckeyes sweep, the Gophers drop to 13.
Right. They drop that far?
They go to 13. And that puts them
on the road against a top 10 pairwise team. Wow. I guess it depends on what happens other places, right?
It does, but agnostic of all that other activity, this is a huge swing series for Minnesota.
Yeah. I just don't see either team winning both games in regulation. That's what I'll say. Let's
go. Let's go.
Only Wednesday. And there should be a great crowd. They've been getting good student sections. They had over 4,000 students at a couple of games against Notre Dame, I think it was. They set a record. And It's great because we never had that. And then it's obviously the dogs. The dogs bring in the students. So,
let's go.
Yeah, I think that bottom bowl at Ohio State, they've done a good job of, they closed off the top and they just fill up the bottom, and it's about 8,000 or 9,000, and it's a good atmosphere if you fill that up. So,
get a new arena; it would be great.
Don't bring that up to me. I'm having a good time. You bring that up, and oh my God!
Cappy, I was looking at some numbers, and in terms of Big Ten spending.
Yeah.
6 Big Ten teams are in the top 10 for spending among all college hockey programs. Who's number 7?
I'm assuming it's us.
It's Ohio State. Yeah. But they're still 13th nationally in
spending. I mean, the Big Ten is we're the bullies with the money.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know, man. They've built all kinds of new facilities for almost every damn sporting. Like volleyball's got a beautiful new thing, and not that we're a revenue generator, but I don't know who gets more attendance than hockey does, aside from, basketball and football and, wrestling does well, I guess, but they have so few events. They probably have like 4 or 5 home meets, I think, all year. So, if I had an answer, I don't want to talk about Let's talk about, I'd rather talk about Minnesota sweeping than talking about.
Oh, there we go. So, but that's going to be it for this podcast. Cappy, we're going to overtime in a bit here, so we'll get serious.
We're going to talk about the overtime rules and all that crap.
Yeah, Viggs, what do you got?
Article this week on GPL for the big series. Bob Motzko. We have what we need, and we need to have what we have.
Oh, he has to read it. He has to read
I
it.
know. It's
Because
confusing. It's confusing. But Garrett Boyne wrote on the board a couple weeks ago, we have what we need. And Bob saw that and he's like, there's more to it than that.
Was that the
He's
day
like,
after the boys left for China?
For China, he said, we need what we have as well.
And
part of that means he needs players stepping up. Like Carl Fish, 3rd star of the week. We got to meet him at availability this week for some great stuff.
Yeah.
And he's a character, and he adds a lot to this team.
Today. We talked to him. Dan talked to him today. He's a nice guy.
He's a great guy. Big guy, yeah. It's what this team needs. You look at the defensemen right now, you've got big guys.
That's where the depth is lacking. If Fish is stepping up, that's good. But that's where the depth is lacking. I think the forwards are so many guys up front.
Well, we've paired the skilled defenseman now with the big steady defenseman. So Brinkman, Stoddicker, and Fish are paired with Lacombe, Johnson, and Kester. So you've got a guy who's got the clear role to support another player. It's been looking good.
That and you're playing. You're not looking over your shoulder. Those guys are gone for whatever. But it's only Faber right now on defense. But you could hear it in his voice. Fish felt like relaxed and he knew his role and he had kind of like he's right in there and he's doing it. He knows when he's coming to the rink for practice, end of the game, what he's got to do. And that is a big thing for an athlete is when you know what you have to do. Now, consistency over a long time, we'll see if that happens. But I think that's the biggest thing is when you get a role and you know what you're coming to the rink every day to do, it usually helps a lot.
Like I said, let's go. Let's have some. Yeah.
I wish I was there. Are you kidding me?
Oh, it would be fun. It'd be fun. We'll be making fun of you on TV, so.
That's fine.
Well, thanks for coming on again with us, Cappy.
Yeah, man, always.
You're one of our favorite guests.
We'll do a playoff preview down the road.
Oh,
I think we did that last year. I can't remember.
We may have to do that. That was the longest overtime too ever with Molesky. So
I'm usually in Florida doing those long ones, but
yeah. So
place to be.
An hour later tonight, it's only 10:30. Early.
Well, that is going to do it for the GPL podcast this week. Of course, we thank Cappy for coming on with us again. Next week, we'll be back to recap this huge series. It's just going to be Viggs and I next week, so we'll have plenty to talk about after this huge series. For those of you currently watching live, make sure you stay tuned for some overtime. For the rest of you, we'll catch you next week on the GPL podcast.